Christ. So here we are again, another month, Ask Why, the Catholic Commission for Social Justice's monthly TV program that focuses on justice issues. As you know, we're into the implementation of the third pastoral priority, regenerating the moral and spiritual values of our society. And this year, each month, we're going to focus on two virtues or values in our Catholic Church. Last month, we focused on peace and love. This month, tonight, we're going to focus on respect and responsibility. And to help us discuss this issue, and remember, it's a live program, so later on you can call in, I've got a really wonderful panel. To my right, we've got Thaddeus Jardine, who was here last month, you'll remember him. And to his right, we've got Tonya Gooding, who is well known on this program now, one of our teachers and a really aware person in terms of social justice. And to her right, we've got Akil Joseph. Akil, Tonya, and Thaddeus, welcome. Thank you all for agreeing to come.
Good night.
And Thaddeus and Akil are members of the Good News Media Project, which is directed by Maureen Arno, developing their proficiency as video producers. So we'll take a little break now for a quotation, and when we come back, we'll get into the discussion first, focusing on respect.
Social justice can be obtained only in respecting the transcendent dignity of man. Respect for the human person proceeds by way of respect for the principle that everyone should look upon his neighbor without any exception as another self, above all bearing in mind his life and the means necessary for living it with dignity.
So respect. What do we mean by respect, and where does our social teachings in our church lead us? Respect, remember, we have some key social justice principles, and two of those relate to respect for the inherent dignity of each human person and respect for the sanctity of all life from conception to natural death. Now, when we talk about inherent dignity, I have a dignity that's given to me by God, and you, the same for you and the same for everyone. Not because I live in Westmoreland or Beetham, etc. We are given that dignity by God, and that remains with us throughout our lives. So even the most heinous crimes committed by individuals, those individuals, although we want them to transform their lives, they never lose that dignity. But it's something we need to maintain and promote. We have a duty to maintain our dignity. So the sanctity of life also, we need to respect that. Let's go back to our origin. Why should we respect our lives, the lives of others? It is because we were made in the image and likeness of God. God made us in Genesis, we know, in his image and likeness, and because he made us in his image and likeness, he also gave us dominion, to have dominion and to subdue the earth, not in a negative way, not to abuse it, and we'll talk about that later. So we have responsibility. We all have a common humanity. We're all brothers and sisters because we were made in God's image and likeness. But the sad thing is that over the generations, as one of our Vatican II documents has said, the split between the faith we say we profess, that we love God and we love our neighbor, so that faith that we say we profess and the way in which we live our lives, there's a huge split. And of course, the Vatican II father said that is one of the most serious errors of our age. And so in our society and in our world today, we really need, particularly at this time of Carnival in Trinidad and Tobago, to reflect on what we mean by respect. Respect for God, respect for ourselves, respect for each other, and respect for our environment. So that will be the discussion over the next few minutes as we focus specifically on this concept of respect. So respect for God. Can you share with us what your understanding is about how can we show our respect for God?
Well, respect for God. So at the end of the day, God is King, God is key, God is the Almighty, right? and there are certain things that he laid out. There are the 10 Commandments. So simply following these 10 Commandments, that in itself is showing respect for God, right? Since also it is said that, as you said earlier, we are all human beings made in the image and likeness of God. So showing respect to Tanya, showing respect to Akila, even yourself, Mr. Amdeen, that in itself is also showing respect to God, because we are his beings.
Yeah.
To put it simply.
Yes, regardless of creed, race, color, understanding exactly that we are created in his image and likeness, but also appreciating that everyone is different and valuing that difference.
Correct.
You know, that is also respecting each other based on, regardless of their circumstance, situation in life, whatever.
Yeah, I would also say that all that is true, because when it comes to respecting God, as Tadia said, that God laid down some rules that we should follow. And rules are meant to be followed and not broken. So God, at the end of the day, and God always provide for us. So we are to show him this level of respect, this level of honesty and earnest for him.
And what about respect for within your own family? How can you demonstrate? You're a parent, Anya. How did you nurture in your children respect for each other and for the honor thy father and thy mother? How did that go in your family?
Okay, well, it's still work in progress, I have to say. But the situation is, being a parent as well as a teacher, you have to lead by example.
Yes.
So it's about mutual respect.
Yes.
You treat each other as valuable human beings, so therefore the manner in which you speak, the manner in which you conduct yourself, right, how you would correct them, how you would gather them together and speak and impart your way of thinking so that they would want to embrace it as well. However, there are also basic courtesies, manners, hello, thank you, please. These are also basic ways of teaching your children respect for others and appreciating as family members that each one is valuable. Each one's input and, you know, way of viewing things may be different, but it ought also to be respected and regarded in that manner. So, again, the way you may answer between siblings, the way you may actually respond in a physical manner, also those are ways of mediating as a parent to try to say that is not showing respect to your sibling. Therefore at school, that is not showing respect to your fellow student, companion, and so forth. And again, among your peers, children learn what they live. And how you deal with the person in the grocery, your husband, your spouse, they look at that and see how you view each other with respect, and they would mirror that as well.
You have to be an exemplar, Taddy.
Cool. So I appreciate the things that you just said here, Tonya. Being a teacher and all of that, because I never liked teachers when I attended secondary school. I didn't like you all. You never respected me. And my thing was that,
how was that manifested?
how was that the fact that every input I have was being shut down. Is that you need to hush up. You know, it was all about, I realized that things are a bit different nowadays than they were back then, because people grew up with this whole kind of authoritative kind of mandate of parenting back in the day, that what mommy and daddy say is law and that kind of thing. But yes, you have to respect them, but, and Akil, you said that rules are meant to be followed, but not all rules are right and correct.
Yeah.
You understand? So it's in one person own knowing that how much you're going to follow the rule, or if they're not going to follow the rule, but still be respectful in that. Right? So I may have a little input in class, and I say, well, miss, I believe that this isn't to be done this way. And basically the teacher being like what, outshined in a kind of way, I'll be put by the door to stand up for the duration of the class and thing. Now I'm not going to lie, I may have been a bit mischievous at times. I'm not going to deny that. But in all my mischievousness, right, the merit of my input, so what I have to say or what I had to contribute was good, was substantial.
Was valid.
You understand? And that was always shut down. And that really bothered me as a youth.
Okay, let me answer your question. In terms of a class atmosphere, do you appreciate the value of time and place for everything, and different methods of approaching a teacher to have your ideas heard?
Yes, I could say yes to that. I yes could say that. But so like for instance, so we have in geography class. I'm not going to call it teacher's name,
Please
but
don't.
yeah, but she then says you're doing map work, and she's saying measure the distance from like Cookie Village to Monterey Post, right?
I said Monipo.
Exactly. And I said, well, miss, the correct word is mon repos. Shut up, you don't know what you're talking about. I said, miss, I'm telling you it's mon repos. It's a French word. It's a mon repos mover. Therefore, I know that it's mon repos and not
You
mon
show it
repos.
up.
Yes.
Yes.
Shut up, go at the door.
Oh dear.
Yeah,
Yes.
but the thing is that needed to be corrected then because the class just heard was just given incorrect information. So therefore going, miss, dang.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, so at that point in time, it was to be done then.
But the way it was done could
I
have been
know.
also done differently.
Yes, because obviously you're challenging her authority in a way that perhaps she didn't like. But I take your point. Too
understand.
often we don't really listen to our youth who are talking to us. Akil?
Yes, and as you speak about people in authority don't listen
Yeah.
to the youths. The youths these days, they need to be heard.
Yes.
There's a cry from inside. Well, youths come from different backgrounds. They don't know exactly what is happening on the inside. But when they come to the front, they may put on this strong, appealing kind of way to actually just show that they're strong. But on the inside, when they sit down and talk, you really see how much things they're really going through. And that is the thing, we need people that could actually listen and not talk, because too many people talking and so many little listening to what the youths have to say.
I think that's why there's so much anger as well,
Yeah.
because many young people feel nobody listening to me, so they lose their cool. But what about respect for self? We're in a carnival time where our commissioners just issued a media release that when you listen to some of the songs, I'm pleading in our media release, don't let the liquor conquer you. And there's a calypso, I'm born with no behavior. And I'm listening to these lyrics, I'm like, what are young people thinking when they hear lyrics like that? We are told, that reading last week said, didn't you realize you were God's temple and that the Spirit of God was living among you? The temple of God is sacred and you are that temple. But as Archbishop Joseph Harris always said, we have let the culture shape us instead of being the ones to shape the culture. So just because everybody dancing and winding down the place and we have all these roly-polies and people just degrading themselves, is that what, are we respecting ourselves, Daddy?
And my answer, when it comes to respecting self, I guess everyone have a different value on themselves. So it's all about building someone's moral, because you may see them looking at a certain kind of way, but that is how much they respect themselves. That could be their 100. It might be my 100, but that's their 100. So respecting self, I guess morals are supposed to be built for them to understand that you're worth more than this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very well said. Because when I spoke to some teenage girls, like for example, I put up a picture of Michelle Obama with the pearls and black dress, and they came up with the words elegant, And I said, isn't that the image you'd like to portray? And like they were thinking about it for the first time. They're all about following fashion, but not thinking about what image and how people view you, right? So when you correctly said about building their morale, they have to appreciate their value and then reflect it in how they dress, how they carry themselves, and so forth. So I think a lot of work needs to be done, well, males and females, but especially in the female, understanding that the image you project is the respect you're going to be given.
And that has to be nurtured in the home and the school. Schools have to take responsibility for that too, Akil.
Yes, I would say that too, because as I said just now, sometimes it's have teachers not listening and all these things, and to guide them, that is what we need, the guidance as youths, and especially in the schools, especially where I was in a session at UWI at time, and they said that the guidance counselors, they are not enough, and some of the guidance counselors, they are not listening to what the students have to say. Sometimes they may go and complain and say, this teacher, well, say so and so and so and so, and they will just turn them down. And coming back to respecting themselves, I would say they would actually build an image, as you just said. They will want to portray an image, and the image they put out is what they are going to receive back. So if they put out something like a gangsterism kind of way, that is how people is going to, that is how people are going to react to them.
What you project.
Because
That's
a guy named Mr. Jeffers, he always says, if you see a group of young men walking down the road, what would you think of them? And the image that you would see from them is that either they come in to rob you or done some kind of scheme or something. But actually, these young men could be of good value.
Yes.
It could be on a different vibes, a different something, actually.
Yes, yes. We-
Sorry, I just want to second the fact that you said that this respect really needs to be built at home and at schools. And I would more say home more than school. At least it needs to start at home, because people more depend for something to start at school. But as I say, charity begins at home and ends abroad.
yes.
So yeah, parents need to put some extra effort.
Yes, we
in
need to
parenting.
strengthen parenting, strengthen family life. So as we come to the end of this segment, can we just focus a bit on respect for the environment? You know, it was Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI who said, our earth speaks to us and we must listen if we want to survive. Now, when in our scriptures we're told that God made man and woman and then gave us dominion to subdue and rule the earth, he never said abuse it. He never said, you know, cut down all the trees and they can have all this flood. He never. So how can we demonstrate our respect for the environment?
Plant a tree now, man.
That's a good idea. Yes.
Plant a tree.
Yes.
Put something in the backyard.
Yes.
Yeah, nothing illegal, please, people. Right? Yes, it's funny about that. I was actually watching this little animation, Dr. Seuss's The Lorax.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's all about the fact that someone just wanted to the aim of making money, cut down all of these trees,
Yes.
all of the trees, and that caused a whole pandemic in the community where they had no clean air. So if you want to actually live to spend this money that you're making, you need to take care of the environment. So I would emphasize again, plant a tree, do something good. Yeah, throw some water.
Yes.
Water
Thanks,
plant.
Daddy.
Yes, even the nice recycle projects that Plastic Keep is doing. You know, encourage your children to participate, develop the habit, because I also met one of the ladies who's promoting, and she said the competitions are well and good, everybody does it, but to get in the habit, Trinidad is having a problem. You know, so keep on working, thinking long term,
Yeah.
thinking of all
Changing the culture will
That's
take a
right.
while. Like you?
And also, as I will come on that and said also, especially the bins that are provided,
Yeah.
we often see that the bins are overflowing and people rest the bags all around, and the bins have been there for a lengthy set of time while it's supposed to be disposed of at a certain time by the company.
Yeah.
And all of this, well, air pollution and all these things started, dogs will start to take these. And so if, when it comes to dumping of garbage, it could be a little more ethical.
And,
Well,
we,
then, yes.
and we need to remember, you know, it starts again at home.
Yeah.
How many families you see children opening the window, throwing out
Yeah.
things, parents doing it too and saying nothing. So it all starts from home. So as we end this segment on respect, we'll take a break for a quotation.
The common good is chiefly guaranteed when personal rights and duties are maintained. Those, therefore, who claim their own rights, yet altogether forget or neglect to carry out their respective duties, are people who build with one hand and destroy with the other. Let each one examine himself to see what he has done up to now and what he ought to do. It is not enough to recall principles, state intentions, point to crying injustices, and utter prophetic denunciations. These words will lack real weight unless they are accompanied for each individual by a livelier awareness of personal responsibility and by effective action. It is too easy to throw back on others responsibilities for injustices if at the same time one does not realize how each one shares in it personally and how personal conversion is needed first. Freedom makes man responsible for his acts to the extent that they are voluntary. Progress in virtue, knowledge of the good, and the exercise of self-discipline enhance the mastery of the will over its acts. The exercise of freedom does not imply a right to say or do everything.
responsibility. God gave us free will. We have freedom. But as Blessed John Paul II says, every generation needs to know that freedom consists not in doing what we like, but in having the right to do what we ought. And as I always tell people, my right to swing my arm ends where your nose begins. And so when we look at responsibility, we need to think about what will help us develop a sense of responsibility. A well-formed conscience, our catechism tells us, is what we need to focus on. Freedom, our catechism says, characterizes properly human acts. It makes the human being responsible for acts of which he is a voluntary agent, or she, and his or her deliberate acts properly belong to him or her. We all have a duty to develop our consciences so we can do what our Catholic Church tells us, to do good and avoid evil. And we also have a responsibility for our own action. How often, even little children and adults, you ask them, they always make, I know some individuals, never their fault. Wasn't me, I wasn't responsible, it's so and so. You know, when I was small, my mom told us the joke about the child when she stole the condensed milk. And then when she was caught, she said, baby told me to take it. Baby couldn't even talk. So it's a clear example of how we need, as we develop and form our consciences, to develop a responsibility for our actions. Man up or woman up, and own up when necessary. So that's a little teaching. So let's move into our discussion now on responsibility. We have rights. I think we need to reflect on the fact that with all the rights, quite often, as our church tells us, too often people want to say, I have a right to do this and that, without thinking of the corresponding duties. With rights come responsibility. Tani?
Well, boy, so just today, right? So you have a right to own a vehicle, and you do have a right to park that vehicle in Port of Spain as well. You have to be responsible in parking a vehicle in the right place. But today, I believe I parked in the right place today, but I was wrecked today.
Oh,
that hurt me.
You see what I say? You believe you parked in the right place. See, one man up. No.
So
why did you?
Where were you wrecked?
No, you see now, this is why I believe I parked in the right place, because I've parked there before, right?
And you got away before?
Well, reading the sign out, but I was a good distance away from the corner, and all of that, right? And then again, when I was wrecked at 3:20 and 41 minutes in the wrecking time, that just goes to show that my vehicle was good all day. I parked since half 7. I just believe how's that injustice there now? But anyhow, on for that. So right, so everyone has the right to be a parent, right?
Yeah.
But you have to be responsible now in bringing up that child, right? Teaching that child proper morals, right? And responsibility, communicating with their siblings. I love you, brother. I love you, sister. You know, can you pass that for me? No problem. Okay, right? So you have to be responsible in bringing up what you own, understand? And bringing up what you have a part in, or bringing up what you entitled to. That's it. So as I always say, child want to get a dog, so this dog comes responsibility.
Because quite often parents have to end up walking the dog.
After
Christmas, child forget dog.
Well, ironically, we got a puppy for all years.
Yes.
And I give instructions. Did you all feed the dog?
Yes.
Right? Because now they wanted the puppy. It's their responsibility. And our responsibility as a parent is to ensure they develop the habits. Right?
Yes.
So it's not about doing it for them. One of them fell asleep and 10 o'clock I woke them up. You forgot to feed the dog. So that is how we instill that all actions have consequences, which is how we teach the value.
Exactly.
That once you have something to look after, you fulfill it to the nth, you know? Because the consequences will be, now you have a puppy, it's getting sick, or it's not being fed. All these things are implications that you're not performing, you're not doing your task, you're not living up to your level of responsibility.
And my add to it is that we have a responsibility to as you said, man up or woman up, to be able to say sorry or apologize when we do things wrong, if we hurt people, we supposed to be able to take that responsibility and say, well, here what, I was wrong and I'm sorry. So that it wouldn't have a long-term effect. It would come like they could sort it out within that space of time.
That will build a culture of peace.
Yes.
You know, excellent point.
But I
yes.
want to add to that, because a lot of parents nowadays that I've encountered don't like their children to feel guilty.
Right.
They don't like their children to feel
Yes.
badly about a situation. And what I try to explain is that guilt is your conscience is working. Right? Your child is feeling badly about doing something, even if it's hitting another person, whatever it is something that is natural, it is to be encouraged. And again, it promotes empathy.
Yeah.
Right? You can really feel sorry about injuring a person. I heard a comment recently, I haven't heard it in years. What the eye don't see, the heart can't feel. And that struck me. You know, it's like for somebody to actually think that because somebody didn't see you do something wrong, it's not really wrong, you know. And that is a culture we have to change, because that's a scene that has been around a long
Exactly.
time, you know. So to be able to train our children to feel empathy, to feel sympathy, then feel sorry, and this is what will lead to confession. This will lead you to really feeling sorry for doing something wrong, hurting another person. This is the level of responsibility we need to embrace a little bit more, I think, in the times we live
And
in.
you see, we need to develop that again in the home and the school. We have a nation full of people who won't take responsibility. The corruption that exists at all levels in society. No, we have to be honest. The corruption that exists, no, that is because people are not taking responsibility to live with integrity. And that is bad example for those coming up, you know, for youths like yourself. And that, you know, if you listen to some of the calypsos, they tell you quite clearly what is some of the areas. I don't want to go into those. But clearly, if we want to develop a culture of responsibility, a culture of life and respect, then we have to start changing. And we have to change, as they say, you know, change the world, Lord, and start with me. Each of us, and this is where I talk about man up and woman up, each of us have to say, gosh, as you say, I'm sorry. You know, I think it was President Carmona who the Pope recently in one of his discussion with his new cardinals talked about 3 things. So it was with engaged couples that he had a mass with engaged couples, and he said, you know, for good marriage you have to remember, please, sorry, thank you. You know, simple little thing, and those are profound statements, although they may seem trivial, very profound. Too often we have conflict because people won't accept responsibility or won't mediate. Mediation sometimes means sort of backing down, not totally, but compromising. Yes, compromising. What about in your own home? How do you develop a sense of responsibility? Do you give chores to your children?
Exactly. Well, you try to make the chores more age appropriate,
Right.
and more as they get older.
Yes.
So they wash them the car, they carry out the garbage, you know,
Right.
those will come with time. But basically, you start with looking after your own space, your own toys, pack away when you're finished, things like that, because they're things that have been given to you, you need to look after them and preserve them, especially if you have younger siblings to pass on as well. But what I also like to talk to children about as well, other parents, are chores that the whole family benefits. You see some nice set in the table that there's no personal gratification, but everybody's benefiting
Excellent.
from
Yes,
it.
yes.
These are chores that you learn to look out for others. So it's not only being responsible for your own, but responsible for looking out for others. So basically, the chores are developed as the children get older. So like when you hit the teens, you have quite a few mowing the lawn, washing the car, you know, those kind of bigger tasks, because you're now capable of more, and you also are, you know, further along in terms of looking out for others. So you give more, and of course looking after younger siblings, because I have 5, so I expect my eldest to help out with the younger ones and so forth, you know. But also an area of responsibility that needs to be taught are actions have consequences.
Yes.
There are rules to be followed in any home, in any school, and when these rules are not followed, there must be consequences, and that is a life lesson.
And that's a
that is how we
problem
develop.
here, because too often there are no consequences, little or no, because people are getting away literally sometimes with murder. Because we live in a society where it takes so long, like the criminal justice system, 8, 9 years, you know. So while people out on bail, they could commit more crimes because
more.
no consequences, they're out. You know, so they're real, and this is where schools and community group parishes. I want to just focus on in your community. What do you think, Akil and Teddy, that you can do with your community groups to develop a sense of responsibility for your own area, to keep the area clean, to develop, enhance the environment?
Now one, I take out my garbage.
All right.
I may not do it personally, but I pay someone to
Get it
do
done.
such.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that doesn't mean actually giving because he's overpaid. Trust me, 40 overpaid, right? And actually, and I actually involved in a group with True Nila Massey called the Boys to Men, right? Rites of Passage, and the Boys to Men program is it's a mentoring program where we go into, as I say, high-risk areas and we talk to young men about setting goals in their life and putting things in perspective. Something called the 3D approach is discipline, determination, dedication, and that certain things have to be done as a young man in your community and by extension even Trinidad and Tobago. And you're responsible for yourself and you're responsible to the ones that are close to around you, siblings and parents. Right, so all that. So we actually talk to young people.
Good.
And say, well, youth, at least you know, certain things needs to be done to better yourself. And where you want to be in life. All right, so you want to be X, Y, Z. How do you plan to get X, Y, Z? All right, so the first thing you could probably talk to someone who's doing X, Y, Z. So I want to be a lawyer. I'm going to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I say, so how did you get there? What did you do? So these kind of things, we coach them and mentor them on how to set their goals in life and how to achieve it. Right, and all about playing the role of the man in the family, all of that, setting your self-esteem on a proper level, so that you can respect yourself and by extension respect others.
Yes.
Right? Because this thing that does always peeve me is that people like to say, I don't have to please nobody, I just have to please myself, I just have to like myself. And to some extent, that is okay, yes, but at the same time, you're not living in a world on your own.
it's not a
And I've come to not like that statement, and I was arguing about it just the other day. You're not living by yourself, you're living with people. Yes, you have certain things about you, but you have to understand not to inflict other people with your personality when they know very well they may not appreciate it. You understand? And I'm so glad that the ban smoking in public places, because I couldn't take that, and people will be walking right next to you and smoking. And so you should be responsible to the fact that you smoke in your own quarters.
That's right.
Yes.
So that's what Akli and I do. We actually, part of this group, that we have programs, not only in Never Dirty Mover, where we reside, but also for the Port of Spain area. There's programs in Chaguanas area, the South area, Trinidad and Tobago and
Akil, you want to share about that program too?
No, I would say that it's a very, very good program. As Taddy just mentioned, the 3D still life, discipline, determination, and dedication. We don't just touch basis on what discipline is, what determination, what dedication is, but actually having them to live a life of what dedication is, what discipline really is, what determination really is. And we do things like teamwork, so that the youths and them will know how to work in teams and also trust. Like we had activities where you learn one stand up and close his eye and fall back and let your teammates catch you to see if you really trust them or not.
Yes. And that's the activity, because in that short little 3-4 seconds of falling,
Yes.
right. You have to
That's right. That is real
Yes.
trust.
Can we just break for another, we're breaking for a little video, and then we'll come back and continue this discussion. And remember, when we come back, that it's your turn. You can ring in to join in the discussion, ask questions, make comments. So we break now.
Imagine a place where no one feels hurt. No one is left out. No bullies can be found. Everyone shows respect and is given respect in return. There are no thieves when we have respect for belongings. There is no cheating when we have respect for ourselves and our learning. There are no tears when we show respect for each other. All because of respect. If we had a place in a school or the world where everyone showed respect, that would be a wonderful thing. a land of opportunity. We could do that. Just make an effort, a little more each day. Simply smile, say hello to each person that you meet. Respect can change the world. You can help, you can make a difference. Just be kind, show respect.
Yes, respect is a gift. It's a gift from God. And because we're supposed to be, if we say that we belong to God and that God belongs to us, then let's show that we belong to God by respecting each other in little things. You know the song by Sri Kanal, Morning Neighbor? You can sing it now.
Neighbor,
Yes.
yeah.
I want to sing the same, Daddy. Yes.
I with them for money, and you needs to pay me for that.
Yes, no, but the little things like that, songs like that remind us how, they keep talking about the old time days, but there's still a lot of people, old and young, who respect each other. So it's not all doom and gloom, but I must say that I feel we could do a lot more in our parishes. How many of our parishes have outreach work to those who are sick, to the shut-ins, to the lonely? What sort of work do you think we should be doing more of, Tari?
Well, in my community, there's a lot of these things that are just taking place through some NGOs and also through groups from my community. So we have the Boys to Men with Neela Massey, right? We actually have CSP, Citizen Security Program, that funds activities there. So we have like talent shows and stuff like that. Also, a lot of extracurricular activities that takes place in our community center, where people are allowed to learn music or cooking or cosmetology and all that is being taught. And also with the most recent thing is TG and the Good News Media, right? So Akil and I are also part of this group, and what they do, they come to urban/rural communities and they give us youths the ability of knowing to use video cameras, the skill of videography. So maybe in the next couple of months I might be behind the camera instead of in front of it. Right? Cool. So so to have that, and I also take responsibility in that in attending class early.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Thanks, Daddy. We're breaking for a call. Good evening, caller. Good evening. Hello, caller. Are you there? I think we may have lost that caller. Yeah? Akil, what about you? What sort of things do you think we should be doing more of in our communities around Trinidad and Tobago to promote respect and responsibility? We're talking about the two now.
Well, I would say more developmental programs. I wouldn't say per se what programs, but all developmental programs are good. And as Tari mentioned, in our area, we have a lot going on, and we have a lot that will be going on. And I don't really think of one that we could really do, but just continue development for young people.
Yes, because Pope Benedict, Emeritus Benedict XVI talk about integral human development, that people should be to take priority over things, and that it should develop every dimension of a person and of each person. We have a call. Good evening, caller. Good evening.
Hi, good evening, Leela.
Good
This is Maureen.
Hi,
I'm
Maureen.
so happy to see you there with my boys.
Yes, your boys are doing fantastic.
From Never Dirty.
Yes.
Good
I
evening,
just
good
wanted
evening.
to add one thing to the mix, apart from sending a big hug to my two boys. I listened very closely when Sally was talking about the geography teacher,
Yes.
and she pronounced the word incorrectly, Monrepo, and he brought it to her attention.
Yes.
And she took exception to it. And I wanted to add something to that mix. They say if you're going to talk, is it, number one, is it true? Number two, is it helpful? But number three, is it kind?
Yeah.
I think a simple consideration of kindness is this a kind thing to do? Because, we could be right, It would be 120% correct. And he was correct. It is Monrepo. And I was very touched and tickled to hear him say, hey, it's a French word. You don't pronounce the S. That's wonderful. you all of that background. But when speaking, with the area of respect, respect is a touchy thing these days. But if we could add kindness as a measure, and that alone, I think, would bring a level of respect that maybe doesn't come naturally, or doesn't. Maybe the person may irritate the heck out of you. How often does that happen? Often. But if we consider, is it kind? What I'm going to do or say, is it kind? That would give us a heart of flesh. It's not always about being right. But if we just added kindness to the mix, so my contribution tonight is kindness.
Thank you,
Let's
Maureen.
consider being kind. And that would bring all sorts of other things forward. Thanks so much.
Nice
Good
ad,
job,
miss.
guys.
Nice ad.
Yes.
As the saying goes, not what you say, but
How you say it.
And in fact, it would have been, I'm sure she wouldn't have minded if you, after the class, say, talk to her quietly and say that. But of course, she felt shame or something, So it's how we do things. But, as you grow older, you will recognize, you develop the skill to do that. And in fact, that experience, the fact that it still remained with you, showed that you've learned something from that. That people react differently when they're ashamed or whatever. And so you'd have a different strategy perhaps the next time.
Different folks, different strokes.
Yes. Do you want to?
Back to what you were saying about as a community.
Sorry, we got another call. Good evening, caller.
Never mind.
Hi, good evening, Leela.
Yes.
I really want to endorse what Jocelyn's daughter said about
yeah.
responsibility to the children.
Yes.
You
Yes.
allocate things to do. So many times our parents feel that they've got to do it all for the children and leave them all alone. I remember once the Dean of Providence, she told the parents, because the new batch of children were coming in, she says, parents, please do not think the children only have to study. Allocate things at home for them to do. If it's wash the dishes, if it's whatever, make the bed. You must be able to have responsibility. And the song you just sang about neighbor, morning, neighbor. Now, I rang my brother this morning. I said, hello, you are your sister's keeper, because a good friend of mine, her brother died since Friday night, and they never discovered him until Sunday. And his brother lived nearby. I mean, very, very close. And if even we say, just to make sure, but morning, how you going? You all right? As the song says, morning neighbor.
Yes.
So we really have to look at that other aspect of our lives. We are our brother's keeper. So okay then, God bless you.
Thank you.
So what she said there actually made my mind flash back to last month where you talk about brotherhood and fraternity.
Yes.
All right, and it's that people live next to each other, but they're not neighbors.
I know.
Right?
The Pope has said that. Pope Francis, Prophet Benedict said, the world has made us closer, but has not made us brothers and sisters. So we can talk to each other on Skype via, the internet or whatever, but we're not brothers and sisters.
Yes.
And we need to develop that fraternity. Needs to be developed, which is what the Pope is saying in his peace message this year. Hello, caller.
Hi.
Good evening.
Just calling to say hello to Tonya and the panel. This is Nicole.
Hi.
And to say that you all are doing a great job. Very interesting topic.
Thank you.
And to tell you all that I really like the spin that the two guys are giving on it. It really, really brings everything together. So good job.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, bye. Akil, responsibility and respect. What message, to all those who are listening, they're young and old, what message would you like to give to them tonight?
I would say respect. Well, I started off my secondary school term as Form 1 as good, and then turned out to be bad within 1 or 2 years. And teachers would have wanted to avoid me as possible, because they would always say, Akil, if you have no respect, you won't reach anywhere in life. They say if you give respect, you will get respect. And respect is the only thing that will take you from point A to point B. But that time I didn't understand, because I was in my own little world. I was just there. I'm my own man. I want to be in the forefront. I want to make a name for myself. But I really didn't understand at the time what what the respect actually meant, not just because too many times
Yeah.
respect is just shown shallow.
Yeah, sorry, we got a caller. Good evening, caller.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
So this is Marcus.
Yes. Marcus. Yes.
Yes, this is Marcus. I just want to say you all are doing a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Marcus. Okay, listen, continue to listen, okay? and I hope that, in fact, we're sharing information that will stimulate people to start thinking of other issues in relation to respect and responsibility. Our government, for instance, if we really talking low level, let's talk high level now. Our government has every government has a responsibility to use the resources of the nation to build what Catholic Church called the common good. And the common good means that we create conditions that will enable each person to live with respect and dignity, to realize their potential. We come back to that in a minute. Good evening, caller.
Hi, good evening, Leela and everybody. This is Mikhail just calling to give some support tonight.
Thank you.
What's up?
Really refreshing to hear Thaddeus and Akhil sharing, especially young men. You know, it's good to see other young men out there trying to do something positive, trying to do something different. My little 2 cents about the topic tonight. I think it's important for us to disabuse the word responsibility. I think many times when people hear that word, they're talking about blame or whose fault it is. But I like what Stephen Covey about responsibility. He took the word apart. It's responsibility.
Yeah.
So it means that we have the ability to respond. I think that's what we really have to prove to people, that we are free to respond. We don't have to live by the family around us. We don't have to live by who is around us, who's affecting us. We don't have to react to the world, but we are responsible, you know. We can respond, and we have the power to choose and to make choices and to make the world a better place, and to have the world change us. So that's just my little 2 cents tonight, and I encourage you all to keep it up.
Thank you so much, Mikhail. As you know, Mikhail is one of CCSJ's parish link coordinators for the Northern Vicariate. Brilliant young man, and really very thoughtful. The things he says, very thoughtful, and he gives a new spin on that, and it's true. You know, we are able to respond, and we're only able to respond if that was nurtured in us. Because the response that many of our people are giving is because they haven't been nurtured. No father around, single moms working, you know, so the response that they're making is they're not responsible. They haven't developed that responsibility to respond in a manner that would help them to realize their potential. So if you go to our prisons and see how many young people who cannot read or write, lack of literacy, and so society has to look at that as well. We need to look at the responsibility of society to promote respect. Society promotes respect for people, for each other, by creating conditions that they will be able, and you go on our website and it says we are 99% literate. Not true. Ask Alta. Yeah, not true. So we have to be honest when we examine and analyze the nation and what's going on here. We got another caller. Good evening, caller.
I'd like to speak to Lila Rambin, please.
Speaking. Yeah, hello.
Hello?
Hello, yes. Can you go ahead and make a comment?
Oh, Lila, it's a big problem with me.
You got a problem?
Yeah.
What is it?
My problem, I know Lila Rambin very young because Auntie Grace and she's a very good friend. But I don't think she knows my daughter. My daughter died.
Uh-oh. Do you want to call me?
They kill her or what?
Do you want to call me after the program?
Huh?
Do you want to speak to me after the program? Yeah? I can give you my number. You got a pen? If you got a pen, can you ring me on 299?
Hold on, right now I cannot see 299
8945.
8945.
5. So ring me about 9:30, okay? And we'll talk. 299.
299.
Yes, okay?
Yes.
Thank you so much, and I remember you in prayer. We'll talk
It's
later.
a very hurtful thing that I'm going through.
Okay, we'll talk later, okay? Love you. Good night. Okay, so as we're about to wrap up, so we just break for a prayer, and then we'll have our final thoughts on this issue.
Let us pray. O God, you have made us in your own image and gifted us with creativity and energy to enjoy life and one another. Help us as we relax and celebrate this carnival season to do so with respect for our own dignity and the dignity of others. Help us to be responsible and caring in our choices so that together we may be able to enjoy ourselves in an atmosphere that is positive and safe. Keep us mindful of your presence with us and let our behavior be such that it may uplift others and remind them of our human dignity and our responsibility to one another and to the environment. Amen.
Amen. We can show respect for each other as we wrap up, to remember that as Christians we should be acting on the corporal and spiritual works of mercy, to feed the hungry, to give drink to the thirsty, clothe the naked, shelter the homeless, visit the sick, visit the imprisoned and bury the dead. Because remember, as in Matthew it says, the last day of judgment, God will ask, what did you do for the least of these? So that's how we show respect also for others, by acting, by not sitting in our comfort zones. I used to tell children, I used to be a chief inspector of schools in England. I used to tell children when I went to the schools to inspect, in Catholic schools, we're not armchair Christians. We're not sit down until judgment day and do nothing, people of God. Okay? So, share as we wrap up. What are your thoughts on
So I'll quickly wrap up and say, saying simple quotes you can really live by, because I do teach something. Do unto others as we like them to do unto you.
Golden rule.
Right? Saying so simple thing as road courtesy. Because somebody cut in front of you badly on the road and the highway, you're going to try to cut back on them or flash a high beam in their lights because they may ignorantly done so. Because honestly they may not have known. Right? Simple things like that. And also remember that who you may expect disrespect from, or certain things you may not get it from them, that doesn't mean you shouldn't also give it unto them. Not because you're not getting it from them, basically because you might want it from him, you may not get it from them, but still you need to give it unto them and others.
Yes.
I would say that I take responsibility on myself and in my country as a person in being involved in certain endeavors that I know can better myself and my country. So you're talking Boys to Men, you're talking TGN, you're talking 2 Cents Movement, stuff like that. That's my 2 cents.
Thank
That's
you.
okay. Okay, well, as a parent and a teacher, I have to say that one of the ways that we can teach respect and responsibility and actually practice it is through the Legion of Mary in terms of the Catholic Church. So that was my personal experience as a teenager, being able to live that out. But also, remember that respect and responsibility, these are 2 virtues that fall under justice. And justice as virtue is basically good habits. So as parents and teachers, these are what we need to inculcate. We need to teach by example and give our children the opportunities to practice it so it can become a habit.
Thanks.
I would add and say that respect and responsibility, let us first have love, as the Bible said, brotherly love. So just let us love and let this responsibility flow from within us.
Yes. Very good. You talk about practice, and that's what I want to leave our listeners with, that just respecting on a one-off basis ain't going to work. We have to create conditions so that young people in our schools, in our homes, in our communities will have an opportunity to practice, because it has to become a habit. You have to practice it so then it becomes natural. And I want to just share with you, you can make this in your homes, in your school. CCSG has just developed some of these bumper stickers. Let your Christian values lead you to live respectful lives. And we have some little cards as well that tells you of all the different values that we should be developing as Christians. So as you go about your daily life, please remember to reflect on these two key virtues and values, respect and responsibility. Thank you, and thank you to my panel. Good night.